Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Unrestricted Sports. Today we are covering the NFL's sort of semi-weekly, semi-daily important news update. So before we get into it, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It does help the channel a lot. And let's get into today's episode. So to start off, AB has officially been suspended for 8 games. That's half of the season, okay? So big suspension. And there's an additional added note on his suspension that if anything comes out of his civil suit that makes the league look further bad or makes, everything seem even worse, he can be suspended for even more games. There's been no word on if Antonio is going to appeal any of this, but it's interesting to know that this came only a few days after AB criticized the league for drawing out his suspension. With all that being said, I personally see him getting signed by maybe a desperate team who could use him in the last half of the season, or maybe a contender who's worried about, mid-season injuries. But with that being said, you also have to take the bad with Antonio. And there still hasn't been a very clear picture on what that's like. He's been painting a picture as though he's getting a lot better, but obviously that could change in an instant because that's how it's been with Antonio for the past couple of years now. But I'll let Nolan say what he thinks on this because, that's pretty much my 2 cents on.
I think that if Antonio Brown is to come back in the league, there'd be a select few teams that would be interested in him. I think as of right now, he seems to be in incredible shape, NFL-ready conditions, and he'll probably come relatively cheap. Obviously, given his past in production, he'll want a little bit more than what a typical problematic free agent receiver would want. But relatively cheap in the sense that he hasn't played in, 2 years now?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Besides his practices that he, posted to his Instagram.
Yeah. I have a few teams in mind, but before I get to that, I think if somebody ultimately does want AB, it'll just be more of a we're signing AB as a luxury. It's like we have the team that could win. Adding AB just makes us a little bit better, kind of like a short term. Let's get this championship kind of addition. Seeing that they'll only have him for at a minimum 8 games of the season, plus playoffs if that team makes it. A couple of teams that I think are either tied to AB or I think would be a relatively decent fit for him. Obviously, the Ravens have been mentioned. Personally, like we've mentioned in a previous video, the Baltimore Ravens are a possible option for Antonio Brown, pairing him with his cousin. It kind of gives defenses the choice of either playing too deep or getting gashed by a solid run game that the Ravens have. So definitely adds extreme versatility to an already versatile Ravens offense. And then lastly, and then I'll let you give your 2 cents on my take of it, but I could see the Seahawks being a okay fit for Antonio Brown. The Seahawks seem to be a team that can handle receivers like that on a lesser scale. They've already dealt with somebody like AB and Josh Gordon. Obviously not the same issues, but somebody that has problems off the field. I think some of that has to do with just the coaching staff and Russell Wilson. But if Seattle could roll out with a dynamic receiving core of Antonio Brown, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf, I think that would be an extremely good trio that would, guarantee them a playoff spot. Not saying they don't have a shot without him, but it's like I said, it's if you add AB, it's a luxury.
So, I hate both of what you just said because, and for different reasons for both. Lamar does not need AB chirping in his ear when he doesn't get the number of receptions that he wants, which is what AB would do.
I agree.
100% should not go to the Ravens. The Ravens need to develop their young talent. They need to keep Lamar away from possible bad influences. And AB, regardless of if he's changed or not, is a potential bad influence. Then for the Seahawks, I like the idea of, I like the idea that you have there and that there is a veteran coaching staff who's more likely to control him, a veteran QB who's not going to be bothered by chirping. But with all that being said, Seattle isn't a passing team, and they already have two incredibly gifted wide receivers in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, plus a atrocious, and I mean that in the best of ways, just thrashing run game that demolishes people. And they have all of their running backs who got hurt, presumably coming back healthy. AB doesn't fit into there. You don't need a third wide receiver option when you have two incredible top-tier level guys combined with an incredible running game and Russell Wilson. I don't see it. I don't see him going to any of the other contenders really, honestly, either, because he's kind of made all of them mad. He's gotten on the wrong side of the Patriots. He's not going back there. I would be shocked, but I mean, maybe that's the most likely because it would make me the most shocked because, Bill Belichick, that sort of thing. But I doubt it. Robert Kraft definitely doesn't want him back.
Yeah. I'm not saying that Antonio Brown would be a fantastic fit for Seattle.
Hang on. The other team that he could potentially go to in the Saints, he's rubbed them the wrong way too by not listening to the first thing they said to him. Don't bring your little entourage of recorders here when you come out here to practice. We want this to be private. It's a private workout. We want to see what you're capable of. And he brought, and then he trashed the Saints and all that. Saints, again, probably don't want him back. The Bucs, the one team where Brady is still advocating for AB because he, part of it's because he respects the player, but part of it's also because I believe that Tom Brady is legitimately concerned about AB. And that's a team that he's also made mad through the extension of Bruce Arians, who was in Pittsburgh when AB was just a rookie. And Bruce Arians back then couldn't stand AB, and that was back when AB was relatively low-key and no one really had anything bad to say about him. But behind the scenes, apparently, he was still bad even as a rookie because Bruce Arians doesn't want him. So I see him really going to a team that's desperate, honestly. I don't see him going to a contender.
I think Antonio Brown is either going to be at a bottom of the barrel team. I don't know. I can't really think of one right now. Like just a bad team in the NFL, or he's going to be a final piece to a championship puzzle. I'll call it. Seattle it was just an example. It wasn't something that I think is realistic for their style of play. But I could have said any team, like the Chiefs, for example, have a similar situation where they have two good receivers, and adding Antonio Brown would just be a luxury. So that was just an example in that aspect. But Antonio Brown, he's either going to be picked up, in my opinion, by a relatively bad team, or he's just going to be out of the NFL for the rest of his career.
All right, so that's it for AB for now. I'm sure there'll be more news at some point because it's AB, and he seems to keep finding his way back into these videos and the rest of the social media world. Up next, though, we have George Kittle and the 49ers' desire to get him paid and locked up under contract. But Kittle has repeatedly expressed that, A, he wants more than the highest paid tight end, which is currently Hunter Henry at $10.3 million, I believe. 10.6.
Yep.
And he's also stated that he believes that he shouldn't be classified as a tight end either. He thinks that he should be classified as a wide receiver that can block, which, I mean, that's kind of what a tight end is, but I can see where he's going with that. Yeah. But the rumor is basically that he wants top wide receiver money for what he does. And, I mean, I can see them. They should really cap him at a low wide receiver one level if they're going to pay him that much. Because obviously that Kittle probably isn't going to take anything less than that, but they should probably try to get him locked up for as low as possible, low end wide receiver one. And I say this not because he isn't worth the money, but because from the 49ers perspective, they need cap because they have a lot of good pieces on that defense who they drafted, who they need to keep around as well, who are going to request big money as well. So with all that being said, they need to keep as much of that cap space free as possible, and paying Kittle more than the highest paid wide receiver, much less the highest paid tight end, is, that's going to be an issue if that's what they do. And I think that they will regret it if they invest so heavily in Kittle.
I think part of this, Kittle's not going to hold out He's already showed up to training
No.
camp. He said that he intends to play regardless of his extension, even with coronavirus and everything. So that's not the issue. He's looking for roughly just under $16 million per year, which would put him within about top 15 receivers in terms of salary per year. But like John Lynch said, that for the 49ers GM, I think this is happening with multiple teams, and I can specifically cite my Bears, for example, with Allen Robinson. That his extension talk has been going on since the Bears were, finished with their season, and with coronavirus affecting the 2021 salary cap, I think that it is playing a relatively large role in negotiations.
Well, they've already negotiated what's going to happen with that. It's that any cap hit that occurs that would have occurred to the 2021 season will be spread across 2021, 2022, 2023, and I believe 2024 as well.
Right. And I think that since there is a little bit more certainty, perhaps the two sides in this case between the 49ers and John Lynch and George Kittle, I think they can get closer on a deal. But I still think whether there is more certainty on it or not, I still think it's going to be a little bit more difficult of a decision. But I agree, like you said, I think paying Kittle set amount might be a little tough considering their wide receiver options, especially with Deebo Samuel out with an injury, Emmanuel Sanders now on the Saints, and Marquise Goodwin on the Eagles. Their wide receiver depth is relatively limited. Obviously, George Kittle is a very solid tight end and deserves money, but paying him that of a top receiver could be a mistake.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. On a side note, I was just thinking about this. Because keep in mind, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys didn't know that the salary cap hit to next season was going to be spread across the next 4 seasons. So that might help alleviate some of that bad blood there, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. My audio was a little messed up.
Oh, I said that in the case of the Cowboys, not knowing that the cap hit was going to be spread across the next 4 years, could have affected their ability to re-sign Dak. So I can see them probably talking with Dak off to the side now, behind the scenes, saying, okay, now that we know, we're going to give you this much money, and I think that could help to alleviate some of the bad blood that might have built up between them.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. I can see that being the case. There's not much for me to add there, but yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to our next topic, Bill Belichick recently said that it will be a competition between Cam Newton and Jarrett Stidham, and that it is going to be open to whoever wins it, whoever is the best in these coming practices, because obviously there's no preseason. Whoever is the best in these practices is going to get the starter job, according to Bill Belichick. So this could either be a moment where Cam Newton proves that he still is worthy of winning a starter role, or it could show that there's a really interesting talent developing in New England behind Jarrett Stidham. Either way, I'm interested to see how it plays out. But just the hype that was behind Jarrett Stidham, I think that I maintain that I think that they brought in Cam to test his resolve in tough situations, because obviously bringing in a former MVP, a guy who played in the Super Bowl, bringing in a guy like that who has the name of Cam Newton is a lot of pressure. If he can handle that pressure and he wins out, I think there's a very interesting talent developing in New England. Now, that being said, if Cam wins out, I'm also interested to see if he can rebound and if he can come back and be even a sliver of the old Cam Newton that we used to see. Because either way, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why people immediately labeled Cam Newton as the Patriots starter. Maybe that's
never how the Patriots have operated.
Yeah, I think that's probably just because people are more familiar with his name and his play than that of Jarrett Stidham. Obviously, Jarrett Stidham is younger, and he's only coming into his second year, but he's impressed the Patriots internally. Even though his external on the field experience is limited to only 4 or 5 passes.
3 passes. 3 total passes.
Yeah, but I mean,
so that's not much to go. But on a side note, Brady threw 3 passes in his rookie season as well. So,
I
you know,
think
if you're superstitious.
I think that this opportunity is going to turn out well for the Patriots either way.
Yeah.
I don't think this
And
with how many opt-outs they've had. I don't see them doing anything of complete importance this season.
I disagree.
Obviously they're not going to tank by any means, but they've lost a couple of key pieces defensively. But I think that if Cam Newton's going to seize the job and show that he can kind of turn back the clock, if you will, then he has the opportunity in front of him. And similarly, Jarrett Stidham, if he's going to live up to the hype that has kind of built up internally and within the Patriots fan base, then obviously he has that chance.
Definitely.
But nobody knows what Jarrett Stidham really brings to the table as of right now, except the Patriots.
So definitely an interesting QB situation there, and I'm very interested to see how it plays out because either way, the QB who wins out is going to have a lot of support behind him because of the fact that they were able to win out.
Yeah.
With also being said, you did mention the opt-outs for the Patriots, and I completely disagree with what you said there. The Patriots are still going to win. What are the Patriots known for? Especially on defenses, where most of these where most of these opt-outs occur. They are known to say, okay, we're going to replace you with the next cog. And so the guys who are behind Dante Hightower, guess what's going to happen? They're going to step right on up and they're going to fill that role. That's exactly what every person on that defense has done so far in their career. That is, all the stars on that defense were once just cogs waiting for the next guy up to be replaced. That's how it works in New England. Now,
obviously they
also
have.
Keep in mind that the fact that they opted out gives Bill Belichick more cap space. He has a lot more cap to work with now. He could actually go out and sign a star player for either the defense or for the offensive side of the ball. This 100% plays to Belichick's favor with the cap space. He has the mobility to make moves now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. Obviously, I'm not going to doubt them in terms of replacing said players. Most notably, or I guess I'll just say the whole list because it's not that much. But their linebacker, Dante Hightower, is opting out. Their running back, Brandon Bolden, is opting out. Offensive tackle, Marcus Cannon, is opting out. Fullback, Danny Vital.
Cannon wasn't very good last year. I'll add that in.
Danny Vital, their fullback, is opting out. Najee Turan, their offensive guard, is opting out.
He's a backup.
Their safety, Patrick Chung, is opting out. So whether they were
and Brandon Bolden, I will add this. Brandon Bolden, he kind of shows it, but let's be real. Brandon Bolden hasn't been Brandon Bolden since like 2017, so there's not very much lost there.
That's fair.
A lot of
obviously
on the offensive side of the ball, they didn't lose very much.
Yeah, offensively, I think they're going to be the same team whether these players had opted out or not because they didn't really lose much. But defensively, whether Patrick Chung is considered to be good or not, and same with Dante Hightower. I think that losing those starters in your lineup is going to be a bump to get over.
Disagree.
But in terms of if this was like if this was like the Lions, for example, and say their linebacker and starting safeties had opted out, I think it'd be a different story. But with the Patriots,
the Lions management is historically inept.
Okay,
the Patriots have been historically.
I could have said any team. I just said the Lions. It's not a personal thing. It was just more so of a point to make that if there was a team that could replace these starters in Hightower and Chung, that I would probably put my money on the Patriots.
Well, I'll put 30 on the fact that whoever the Patriots have fill those roles, 30, okay? I will put that on the fact that when the guys who opted out this year come back, they will not have their jobs.
You don't think Hightower's going to have his job?
I think Hightower and Chung will come back and their replacements will be better. And I think that they'll win the job in the coming seasons.
That's an interesting bet to make. Because
Are you down to make it?
No, because like I said, if I had to pick a team to replace him, it'd be the Patriots. But
you're so scared you won't bet 30.
See, it's just it's unpredictable. It's so unpredictable. I mean, safety wise.
But that means that you're confident that the Patriots, whoever they have bring up, are going to be successful then, because otherwise they wouldn't win the job.
See, here's the thing. I'll say this. Jarrett Stidham and Tom Brady, when being drafted, it wasn't like, oh my God, they drafted Tom Brady. The Patriots are going to be this dynasty. But look what happened. Their first round pick, Kyle Duggar. Everybody's like, who the hell is Kyle Duggar? Nobody knows until he plays. So he could be insane. And that could be their starting safety. Obviously, he's a free safety, but if he shows in training camp, he could start at strong safety. Obviously, you still have J.C. Jackson, who could slot over if need be. And then linebacker-wise, I mean, again, another relatively no-name person that either A, I just never heard of, or B, this is just some unheard of talent by Belichick.
Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung and Stephen Gilmore all started out as guys who everyone said, who is that? And then they had their first breakout game as rookies or as second-year guys, and they replaced whoever was before them. And that's how it always works. So I have no doubt that it will get done. But
yeah,
so
Bill Belichick said, I mean, it's pretty simple. The job is for whoever wants it. So I think, like I've harshed on about 30 times in the past 30 seconds, I think Bill will figure out a way to replace said losses.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up our topics for today. Make sure, like I said at the beginning of the video, make sure you like and subscribe. Do you think that I'm wrong that the Patriots are still going to win the AFC East? Leave that down below. And we will see you guys next time. Peace.